Good morning everybody, and a very warm welcome to Mildenhall and Volmer. And today I have a layout update for you. I have a faulty loco and I also have some new arrivals. Now, just before we start, I hope everybody's keeping well, and I just wanted to say a big massive thank you to everybody who commented on my last video for their resounding support towards me, my channel and everything I do. And that's absolutely wonderful. I'm absolutely ecstatic that so many people just basically said, carry on what you're doing, we love what you're doing, which is absolutely brilliant. But the video was also not necessarily directed just at me personally, because I just wanted to make it clear to some people who may be put off, because I know there's videos out there that have complained about length of videos, and I just wanted to sort of say, basically the theme is just to be yourself. That's how I sort of see it. Over the years, me personally have always kind of tried to conform to everybody else and live my life according to what everybody expects of me. And you just need to be yourself. And now I've had that opportunity of being myself, and my videos are what they are, like I said. But it's also because, like I said, you know, it's your channel, it's a chance to express yourself. And, you know, don't be put off by people sort of saying, you know, that your video should be like this or like that, or have you considered changing your name to this or to that, or, you know, it's your channel. So that's one of the reasons why I put up the video. I just didn't want people to be put off by these other insensitive people who are putting up videos saying, well, you know, it's either too long or too short, or we don't like this or that. So just stick to your guns and be yourself. That's kind of what the message was, really. Anyway, on to the video, and thank you once again to everybody for your support. So on to today's video. Now today, and today's Sunday, but yesterday I received a few bits and pieces. So over at the station side, the new extension station side, which is just over there, I was talking to you about some of the bits and pieces, the row shops and the backgrounds that I've been using. So these are the few bits left over from that sheet, and that is sheet 1, and that was from Backgrounds of Distinction, and that was sheet number 1. Now I did say that I did have on order some more sheets to go along the back of the station, and they have inadvertently turned up, so that's cool. I'm really happy they've turned up. And I just wanted to sort of share them with you to show you what I've actually received. Now, I haven't actually as yet decided what I am going to be using and what I'm not going to be using, because what I did is I actually bought a selection of bits and pieces of what I might need, because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use. And basically I just wanted, because it was so cheap, I just thought what I'll do is I'll buy a selection of things that interest me, that I think could work, and then I'll decide later what I will use. So yesterday, in the backgrounds turned up, and as you can see, they're pretty curled up. So what I'll do is I'll leave them out for a few days or whatever, and try and get them lay them flat and let them kind of naturally kind of come out of the curl, but they're still in the box, that's why. I wanted to show you some of the images that I've got to play with. So, and there's there is a lot here, and I haven't actually opened them all up properly, but that's just kind of like one sheet there. And I'm not sure whether or not they sort of go into each other. They do seem to be lettered, so I'm not sure whether they kind of go together. But that's another one there. I haven't really looked into it. This is basically the industrial sheet, I believe it is, and this is sheet 9 that I'm showing you currently. And I bought 3 sheets. I bought sheets 3, 4 and 9, I think it was. bear with me a minute as I'm still trying to. So that's another sheet there. And then this is the last sheet. So this is all kind of very much industrial warehouses and stuff like that. So I'm not exactly sure how they go together or what I'm going to be using. So I only just got this yesterday. So actually, me opening this in front of you is actually the first time that I've actually looked at all the sheets proper. Because I hadn't actually looked at them all proper before I've just opened it just now. And again, so that was just sheet 9. I do like these sheets because I think they've got a lot of character towards them. It's quite like the Pico stuff. So this is very much along the lines of the Pico stuff, except with this, you don't get the sky, so it's up to you to do the sky. But I've already got the sky, so that's fine. So this is the other one, which I'll show you as well, that I've got. So like I said, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be using in terms of which bits I'm going to be using. But I did buy a selection. I think it's like only about £3 a sheet or something like that, or whatever, and I can't really. So here's a nice long piece. Ooh. That you get, and there's some rows of houses and a town scene at the back. So that's that one. I think this is sheet 3, and I do think that some of the sheets do marry up with one another, but I'm not entirely certain. But the beauty of this is that you can mix and match it. You don't necessarily have to be like some of the other backgrounds that you can buy, that one sheet leads into another. I think you can sort of mix and match it. And this is another one, which is the one I really was interested in, because I think this will be a real statement piece to go on the back. So I'm thinking I'm going to more than likely use this piece, but I have to see how it marries up with the track plan that I'm doing. So that was sheet number 3. Like I said, you can go onto their website, and it's town scene and its backgrounds of distinction. And not only do they do sheets like this, they also do 3D models as well. So for those of you who are a fan of card kits, for example Metcalf, if you like Metcalf stuff, if you like, there's also Kingsway models, there's another card, it's super quick. So if you like those kind of stuff, they also do card kits. So if you haven't come across their stuff before, it is well worth looking at, because you know, it might just offer you a different option as to, you know, what you can do with your layout. This is another sheet. I think this is sheet 4. And again, it's really nice buildings I've got here, really kind of big background buildings. And like I said, the sheets are really cheap, and they go on really nicely and go on easily, and they dry really well. So that's another one. And like I said, all this information that pictures that I'm showing you is all on their website. I should point out that, like I did on my last video, that if you are interested in any of this, you do go on their website, but you have to actually phone them. There is a link to go to PayPal and pay via PayPal and stuff like that, but I think the link's broken. So when I called him up and I explained to him that I was after this stuff, he did say to me, look, the link's broken, we're looking at getting a new website done up, but what is it you'd like to order? So essentially you can still browse through the website, have a look at what interests you, and then obviously you can make the phone call if you're interested and give him the details of the sheets that you want, or the kits that you want. So like I said, they do 2 parts to the website. One part is the sort of town scene, stuff like this, sheets, both in 00 and N gauge. And you can also, like I said, do the 3D models. I know it's in 00 gauge, I can't remember whether they do the N gauge in 3D models, but possibly. The last sheet to show you of all the buildings, which like I said, these are great buildings to put behind the station because it gives that kind of sense of a city scene, or that it's an urban environment rather than just sort of like a plain sky, which is what I've currently got, which is what I want to. That's why I want to sort of put some of these buildings. Like I said, I'm not sure in what order. It might be a case of like I did with the first sheet, where I cut out individual buildings and then sort of place them on the background and try and sort of like create some sort of jigsaw puzzle and see what fits and what will work. So this is the last sheet that I got from them. So you've got some you've got some shops there, and it really does create a bit of depth to the layout. I think these are really nice actually, and like I said, they're really cheap. So I think that, like I said, I paid £12 for all of this. So, and there was 3 sheets. I think it's 3 sheets, 3 or 4 sheets. I think it was. Anyway, it's about £3 or £4 a sheet. So moving on. Something else that arrived yesterday was my signage that I'd asked about, that I was telling you about for my station. So I just wanted to go through some of the signage. Before I show you the signage that I actually got, I just wanted to show you some that I already had. This is from previous projects and things like that, and what you can do with them. And for those of you that are interested, because it just clarifies, so sometimes it just, you know, gives people different ideas and things like that. So I originally, even with Behringer, this is going back to Behringer days, I downloaded a load of images from Google. I then had them resized and taken to a printer, and the printers kindly resized it for me and basically did a preliminary overview of what you'd get to see and check to see if the sizes were correct for the scale. So this is kind of what you got. So this is kind of like a black and white sort of proof thing, and basically that was what was printed out, and this had all the images. And don't worry if you can't really see the images, because I'm going to show you the colour images in a minute. And then that is up to me to then turn around and say, yeah, that's great. And then she prints it off onto, well, she printed it off to me onto proper cards. And this is what she's been doing for me for a few years now, for a variety of projects that I've been doing, like the NSC stuff, even the Southwest Train stuff, and some of the other stuff which I'll get on and show you. So this is kind of like all the kind of stuff that you get, like some of the NSC posters, intercity posters, and basically she's duplicated them onto a number of sheets. So I've got plenty to be getting on with. So there's information boards, there's posters, and all the rest of it. And so this one kind of reverts to kind of the 80s and 90s, where you've got the BR and NSC. So I've always kept this over the years as a kind of reference in case I always needed more. On this one, there's some more 80s and 90s stuff. BR, HST. There's also some common sort of posters of vehicles of the day, which were new. So it's all kinds of posters that you can use, so you can mix and match along the station. And as I've gone through the years, I've also done some other ones. I've got some speed restriction signs, which again I bought from the same chap from eBay, but I had them printed off onto a sheet of A4 card. So I've got plenty of speed restriction signs, because sometimes you use more than what you actually get. Like you only get 5 miles an hour if on the original one, but because I've quadrupled it, you get 4 times the amount. So you don't have to keep going back to the same seller and keep spending an extra whatever it is. So I just had them printed onto a decent card, and I've got copies here. Even with the Mildenhall station, I've done the same. We've got a couple of sheets of these as well. Again, it's the train care depot that I was going to do, but I'm not doing anymore. Or maybe not, maybe later, I don't know, who knows. And then also for Mildenhall station itself. So that will be going on to Mildenhall when I get around to doing that, which won't be too far away now, I hope. And that is part of this video update. Also, in keeping with the South West Trains theme and the more modern theme, we've also got some current adverts. Well, I say current, but modern adverts, basically, compared to the old BR and NSE. So again, get these images from Google, scale them down and have them printed onto a nice card, and then you can cut them and use them as you so wish. And what happens is you end up with bits and pieces that you've cut out. So I've taken the top half off of this sheet and I've cut bits off of that one. So you end up with all these bits and pieces, but still I've kept them over the years because you never know for future projects, I should say, what you may or may not need. You may need to refer back to these like I have done. I've got some more NSC stuff here. And again, this is printed onto decent card. And again, rather than go to the original and mess up the original, I can actually just take the copy and use it from the copy. So I've always got the original to refer back to in case I should need any more. Also, like I said, from the NSC bits, you've got station symbols, also mounted onto card, additional signage, as per ticketing and everything like that. That's all done, and as you can see, I've been sort of picking at some of it and cutting bits and pieces off of it. So the bit that arrived yesterday for my new station, so here we go, here's the big reveal now, because I'm now going to tell you what the station is called. Now, those of you who've been following me for some time will know that my station names, I like to be a little bit different and obscure with what they are. And no disrespect to anybody, but there's a lot of people tend to put centrals or junctions and things like that, which is fine, and that's up to each and every individual person to put what they like. I've always tried to be a little bit obscure with my station names. And basically, I've chosen Bourdillon Gardens. And basically, how this comes across is through my bus driving. I'm always looking at street names and things like that, and looking at signposts and things like that. And sometimes, occasionally, I'm driving around and I come across one that maybe I've never seen before or that strikes me. And Bourdillon Gardens is actually a true place. I mean, there's no station attached to it, it's just a street name. And it's actually on my number 6 route in East Popley, for those of you who know Basingstoke. And I actually really liked it. I thought it was such an unusual name. And so here it is. So the station in the corner is going to be called Bourdillon Gardens. So like I said, it tends to be a lot of centrals or junctions and things like that, and I just like to try and keep things a bit different. And like I said, no disrespect to anybody, but that's just me. I've always done that. That's why I used to call it Beringen districts, and you've got Volmer. These aren't sort of names that generally strike people, but for whatever the reason they come up. Like I said, Volmer actually on this layout is based on came from the actual crane that I was actually going to use, that I originally started using for this layout before I bought the Lima one. And Mildenhall came from a friend of mine many years ago, and she used to work up that way. And before I knew it was an RAF base, and I just liked the name Mildenhall, which is why. And it always stuck with me, so I thought, well, come a future project, I'll probably use it, and that's what I've ended up doing. So, it's kind of sort of events that take me to choose and inspire me to choose names for the station. So I've now got the signage for the station. So the actual update itself, I've started work on the station the main station. I have done a little bit of work on the extension, but actually the bulk of the work is going to be at the main station. Now, just before we go there, we're going to take you to my faulty loco. And also, I just want to quickly show you this. Now, this is a scratch-built London Transport bus shelter. And I thought I'd show you this because I've actually not used all of them, and I've got two. And I thought I'd just show you how I've made it, and it's all scratch built out of card, and this is basically to go back to London Transport days back in the 80s and things like that, and that was actually a scratch build. One of the things I did do yesterday also is I made a little bus stop flag, and I'm going to show you that on the new one because there's another one there as well. So next, we're going to go to my faulty locomotive. So I'll see you on the other side. Toodaloo. So firstly, we're going to chat about this little bundle of fun. It is my Batman Class 66, 721 in the limited edition tube map livery. And this joy has been giving me no end of trouble for a little while now. It started originally when I was going to put a TTS sound chip in this, and I couldn't get it to work properly, and I eventually took it out and put it into my DB Schenker 66. So this has been going on for probably a couple of months. And as you'll soon see, you'll see a side of my layout that you don't normally get to see. And you'll see that in a minute because I cleared the decks. And the only locomotives I left running was my EPB, EMU, and this 66. And the reason why I left this one out is because I knew it'd been giving me some grief, and I wanted to keep running it to test it to make sure it was all right. And during the course of testing it, it failed. It failed miserably, and worst of all, it failed right at the back of the layout, so I had to go fishing for it as well. So what had happened was nothing actually particularly major, but it was a bit of a hassle. What I'd noticed is that one of the pickup cables had come desoldered. So it died completely. I couldn't get it to run. It was stuttering and eventually it just died. And obviously I know that both Alan and over at Junction and Peter Dixon have had issues with 66s, Batman 66s. So I was a bit concerned that this might be going the same way. But the motor wasn't hot or anything like that. And the bodywork was sound. So it wasn't an overheating problem, but obviously it become desoldered. So I thought, okay, let me solder that up and test it. So I soldered it up, tested it, nothing. Still no power, still no lights, nothing. I checked the rest of the pickups, and it turned out that the one on the other side of on the same bogie was also virtually hanging on by a thread. So I redid that, and I thought, well, that will cure it. And then nothing again. So I thought, oh, what's going on here then? So I looked at the all the joints and all the soldering points and everything. All the rest of the wiring was sound. So I thought, well, it's either going to be the chip or the board, and I decided that the body, because the body was still off, to take the chip out. I then put a blanking chip onto the 66 and stuck it onto my rolling road, and it fired up and worked fine, perfectly fine, no problems at all. The lights were working, the motor was running, and all the rest of it. So that led me to believe that clearly it wasn't a motor problem, and the 66 was running and the lights were working. So it was either a PCB problem with the DCC side, or it was the chip. So I put the chip back on and it's still nothing. And then I decided to put it onto my programming track, and I tried to reset the chip. So I tried resetting the chip, and hey presto, it's now up and running again. So, so all is well with my 66 again. Been a bit troublesome. Hopefully that'll be the end, but I've left it on the layout because I still wanted to run it and test it to see whether it was okay again. And so we're going to just send her on her merry way. She's actually pulling quite a long rake actually, because as I was clearing the layout, these wagons are interconnected by screws, and so I didn't really want to unscrew every single one of them, or every second of them. So I decided to keep those on the layout. So I just added them all together and just put them out of the way. These two on the back, I couldn't find the boxes for it, so I decided to attach that to the back. So just before we go to the main layout, I just thought I'd just quickly point out just a few minor bits that I've done here at this end of the layout, which is the extension end. What I've done is I've added these two signs. It says "Do not alight here," and there's another one there, and there's another two over there. Now, these are made out of matchsticks, and then obviously, like I showed you before, I've got the sheet mounted onto the mount board, and then after created a sign like that and created a post like that, and just gave them the matchsticks a coat of just grey paint, what was to hand really. And for those of you who don't quite understand why these signs are here or what they quite mean, basically this station holds 2 coaches fully and 3 coaches with the ends sticking out a little bit. And anything more than that, like my 4 car units or a loco and 5 coaches, will overhang the platforms. And you would often find that trains would stop at these stations with more coaches that can fit onto the platforms. Clapham Junction is a great example of that. Also on the underground, you get this now where they've added the new trains, the new S-stop trains, and you get to stations like Bayswater, Notting Hill Gate, where the trains are actually longer than the actual platform. And they'll say, oh look, you can't alight from the front doors, you have to go to the middle doors or whatever, or further down the train to get off. So that's the whole point. And so when the coaches are overhanging on this section, and the idea is that the signage is at the height of the window, so the passengers can read it and say, you don't get off here. So they have to move down to the next coach along to be able to get off on the platform. But back in the day, they had to put these signs up because a lot of the trains were still slam door trains, manual slam door trains. So you haven't got that protection like you have today. So that's why they put the signs up. So that's all that I've done along here. I've also got the stop board signs and a load of other stuff. And as you can also see, I've been laying matchsticks again. This is for the cable trunking, and this cable trunking runs all the way to Milden Hall Station. I haven't finished it yet by any stretch of the imagination, but I've just made a start on the cable trunking. So this is all made out of matchsticks. It's a far, far cheaper way of doing it than buying Will's ones, where you get packets, which if you've got a lot to do, it does turn out to be quite expensive. If you haven't got much to do, then maybe you can go down that road, but I've got quite a lot to do, so this is a far cheaper option than and it's actually quite therapeutic to lay down as well. So that's what I've been doing along here, is starting the cable trunking. So as you can see from this end, this is all, again, more cable trunking all the way around, and it finishes all the way there, and that starts there and finishes back over at the extension. The reason why it's finished, because I'm not finished there, let me get my words right. The reason why it's finished there is because I haven't finished with the station. So that's why. So before I carry on, I just wanted to finish off with the station. So this is a view you're not going to see very, very often here at Mildenhall and Volmer, and that is basically nothing. It's pretty empty. And the crane isn't even here. I haven't got rid of it. The reason, like I said, is because I've added the bay platform where my EMU is currently sitting, and that currently then goes into a wall, which then joins up with the security fencing that is over here. Also, the bus shelter's moved, so that's now on the other side, like I said yesterday, but I've decided to shorten that, so it's now, it'd take 2 buses, so that therefore I've got some space over there for the cars to park, so there's like a little mini car park. So from this angle we have kind of like a bird's eye view of Mildenhall station and how it's looking. And like I said, it's still essentially the same, but we've now got the bay platform fitted along here. So that's where the old bus stand was. It's where that EMU is. One of the benefits of me doing this actually is that I did actually have a little gap in the fence, which was just over there because I'd run out of fencing. Now, because I've now extended this brick wall, just slowly pan you around, all the way down and all the way down here, I've managed to save myself some fencing in order to fill in the bit of fencing that I was missing previous. So that's a bit of a Brucey bonus. As you can see, the roundabout still exists. It's not quite as round on the top edge as it was before, so it's not quite as a bulb like it was before. However, I did have my bus that I was testing, and as you can see, there's also a Arctic lorry just there that I was also testing to see whether or not the clearances were fine. So as you can see, that's where the bus is, and then that can just sort of go around and make the turn. Now, buses do have a good turning circle. It is a bit tight, but it can be done, and then it just comes into the bus stand like so. So I do experiment and play with the vehicles just to make sure that I've got the clearances right. Also, I had to test out the clearances on the lorry because I've now pulled the cabin a bit further in, so I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. Also, the substation which was there, which I really quite liked it there, that's now going to be moved over to Bordillan Gardens around that end. What else? Oh yeah, now here's a good overview. Bear with me a second. So here's another little overview of things, and I just wanted to point out a few bits and pieces. Something else that I forgot to tell you on my last video, which I've done, is I've actually saved myself some money because I was originally going to get a double slip to go here where this point is and move this point over here to allow trains to be able to come across, like on the other side, to come across and then choose the route they wanted to go. But what I've done is I managed to have some points left over, and as you can see up the top, I've now managed to negate having to buy the double slip by coming through the top there. So as you come through the top, you can then come into the middle and then use this set of points to then come onto the inside lane, or onto the inside track. So I've managed to get around it that way. So that's something else I've been doing. So again, that's taken up a fair bit of time to get that to work. So here's a better view of that junction. Like I said, it sweeps from the outside and into the middle, and then after use the points further down to get onto the inside track. And the reason for this is because I've inserted this is because before, if I wanted to go from the outside from here to here, I'd have to go all the way round to Bordillan Gardens and go on the other side of the track to get onto the middle track here. So now by doing this, I've basically cut out all of that, and it gives me far greater options. Something else that was a bit tricky was to add this point in here to get into the bay platform, because this is so tight. This is so tight. So there's going to be a very limited speed restriction getting into that curve to get into the bay platform. It does work. The EPB doesn't mind it. I did test it with a Mark III coach also for clearances for the fencing, but it is tight, because it was a bit of a struggle to try and get the geometry right on this curve, because it's already a tight curve even before. So to make it even tighter, to actually swing that track into the bay platform was what the big headache was, for me. But we're getting there. So we'll just give you a little shot of it coming around the bend. And then it can just sort of use the points to go to whichever direction you'd like to go. So that concludes the end of today's video. So thank you so much for watching once again. Thank you so much for your kind words and kind support. And no doubt I will have another update for you very soon. So take care, and until the next time, keep safe. Bye for now.